All right, welcome everybody. How are you today? Yeah. Oh, it's wonderful to hear. I'm so glad you're here. I am really, really loving today. I want to say that we're kind of kicking off our space for real this time. But what you don't know is we're actually going to get new carpet in here too. So we have just a little bit more remodeling going on. So I'm very excited about that. For those of you who are new here for the first time, welcome. I'm really glad you're here. We have chosen to make this community one of inclusivity, one where each and every person has the opportunity to contribute their gifts, and one where everybody makes a difference here. And I'm really excited to be here on this very special day. It's my favorite day. Everybody here usually knows that. I decided that today is the best day ever. So welcome to the best day ever, everybody. It's my favorite time to be because it's being alive. I really dig that. And and other people do too, apparently. But that's not always true. And oftentimes we seek places out like this because we're not necessarily in that space of this is the best day ever or feeling really great about life. And that's why I want to talk to you about what we're launching for the greater community of Centers for Spiritual Living. We're launching this amazing idea of creating a world that works for everyone, which is our global vision. And we have a monthly theme that we're focusing on, specifically a world that works for everyone. But the yearly theme is focusing on the global vision. And we're taking our global vision, which is Centers for Spiritual Living. It's kind of like our Declaration of Independence. You know, that document where our forefathers decided that they wanted a new idea for a country? Well, we created a document for a new idea of how we want our world to be. And it's one of those things that's so amazingly wonderful that just dreaming about it makes me excited. Just having the words excites me. And it's about creating a world where there is forgiveness is the norm. There's a resurgence of art and beauty on the planet. There's an emphasis on appreciating and loving people for who they really are, where diversity is important and so is inclusivity, where each person can be respected for who they are and where borders are irrelevant. And it's a really big idea. It also means that I have to break down the borders inside me in order for me to introduce that idea into my consciousness. But we're doing that as a center. We're talking about breaking down borders, right? Tearing down walls. Like, we're physically tearing down our walls. We physically tore them down. And so that's a physical representation of what we're doing out in the world. We're opening ourselves up out into the world. So this week we're talking about the world has learned all it should through suffering. That's in the Science of Mind text, page 107. You see, suffering comes from a state of mind. We absorb this state of mind from our parents, our families, our schools, race mind. And when I say race mind, this is a term we use in Centers for Spiritual Living a lot. And we don't mean like our race, we mean like the human race. So race mind, the human race. Like, what are we as a collective humanity? How are we thinking together? And am I individually influenced by that larger idea, by that larger thought that's happening? And many of us are. If we're not intentionally creating what we're thinking about or intentionally creating what we want in our life, creating our purpose, creating our desires, creating our dreams, then we're swept up with what the collective is thinking about. And that becomes our default. So we're always on default unless we're in intention, right? So that doesn't mean it's bad or good. It just is what it is. And ideally, there's going to come a point in time when the majority of humanity is having a vibration of love. And that's when there's going to be a huge shift on this planet. Right now, there's a big movement that's happening. You're all involved with it. You're all part of the New Thought movement. You're all part of a new idea of what conscious spirituality is on this planet, participating in a world where we love each other for who they really are, for who we really are. Sometimes it's the loving the self that's the harder part, right? And so when we're suffering, when we choose to think differently, we let go of our suffering, our victimhood, our resentment, and our hate. Now that's great for me to say. Wow, let go of your victimhood. Oh, okay, I'll just go home and not be a victim. Yay! And I'm sure, it's really easy to say a lot of these things, but implementing them in our lives is the harder part, right? The Science of Mind text says, the world is beginning to realize that it has learned all it should through suffering and pain. Surely there can be no intelligence in the universe that wishes man to be sick, suffer pain, be unhappy, and end in oblivion. And the universe here is a synonym for what I call God. Surely there is no God that wishes all humanity to be sick, suffer pain, be unhappy, and end in oblivion. Well, if God created everything, why is that there? Why is there suffering? Why is there pain? What is that all about? Our suffering results from a refusal to align and comply with the way the universe works in perfection and in harmony. So there's laws that bring into our life what we think about, what we believe, and it attracts to us what we're sending out into the universe. We're actually the genesis of what's going on. And that doesn't make sense sometimes, because sometimes it sucks, right? Like, wait a second, I didn't choose this. I really got this on a deep level when I was in a class. It was a class similar to ones we have here. It was a foundations class, and I had this kind of pit in my stomach feeling. And I was like, I really want some clarity. I'm going to ask the universe for some clarity in this pit in my stomach feeling. And I was in a relationship at this time. And I was declaring that I had the perfect, most ideal relationship. I was imagining just bliss and joy and happiness. And I was feeling it at every level of my body, but I still had this pit in my stomach feeling. Well, about a month later, my ex at the time breaks up with me. And she and I were together for 4.5 years. We were going to be married in 6 months. And I had no baseline for that. And I was completely in pain. I was completely suffering. And I was like, wait a second, I was declaring right here and now that I have this beautiful, blissful experience of relationship. And yet here I am and I'm suffering. Well, that's because I was choosing this. And this was a result because it needed to get me out of where I was in order to get me into where I needed to be. So pain happens, but suffering is optional. It's like a kid, right? A kid, and they have a hot stove. They put their hand on the hot stove. Ouch, oh, they're burned. Well, did the stove mean to do that for their suffering? No. It's just the way that the universe works in order to get you to the place that you need to go. Don't put your hand in the stove. Are you being, victimized? Oh my God, I put my hand in the stove and I can't believe the stove would do this to me. What kind of stove would do this to people? No, it's just a reaction. It's just an action that is aligning us into where we are intending to be. So if you're stating that you want to be in a place of love, you want to be in a place of harmony, you may be coming up against things that are taking you away from the situations that are creating not harmony in your life. Does that make sense? Okay. So I have this amazing book. We actually adopted this book, I don't know, I think it was a couple years ago when we first started. The Art of Possibility. Well, Centers for Spiritual Living is adopting this book this month, which is really cool because I love it. And this was one of my favorite books, actually in ministerial school, that I got assigned. They would assign us like, I don't know, what is it, Kathy, like 12 books every 3 months? Yeah, you have to read like 4 books at a time for one class. It was ridiculous. So I didn't read fully all of the books, but this was a book that I read where I had to, right? So I had to, and then I had earmarked it to go back to because I really, really love what I read. And so I've reread it, and now I'm rereading it again. And the beautiful thing about this book is this husband and wife team, Roz and Benjamin Zander, they're musicians, and so they do a lot of musician allegory and talking about how it works in music and how it works in life. But I really love their principle number 1 is it's all invented. So there's a story of a shoe factory that sends 2 marketing scouts into a region of Africa to study the prospects for expanding business. And the first scout sends back a telegram. It was obviously a long time ago. Sends back a telegram saying, "The situation is hopeless. No one wears shoes here." The other one writes back and says, "Glorious business opportunity. They have no shoes." So which is it, right? It's all invented. Our whole perspective, our whole point of view on life, it's all invented. And it's where we come from that makes the difference. You see, we actually have a limited vision. I know that you probably know this, but let me give you a couple of facts just to kind of nail it down for you. The human body, so our body, sends 11 million bits per second of information to our brain. So our eyes have 10, what was that? Wait a second. 10 billion, 10 million, 10 million. So the eyes take care of 10 million of the bits of information. The skin is 1 million. The ears are 100,000. Smells 100,000. And taste is 100,000. That's an average. Everybody's kind of different. But your brain only processes out of all of that information 50 bits. 50 bits per second. So imagine what's going on that you're not processing. It's processing in all of your senses, but it's not processing up here. What is processing up here, what is being created up here, is what we've created up here. Our belief systems are filtering out information. Our thoughts are filtering out information. The way that the group consciousness of the people that we're involved with, the way that that's influenced, kind of I would say the cloud, is filtering out information. And we're receiving only what we really want to receive, or we've been programmed to receive. But it's all been self-programmed. Self-programmed from our childhood, from our parents, from our society. It's all been programmed. And so we only see this little bitty point of view of what's going on. So I want to introduce you to the idea that that point of view can completely shift. It can completely change. It can be radically transformed. You can open your eyes and see things completely differently. But the way to do that is to start recognizing, 1, that you're open to that idea, and then 2, to start seeking out opportunities to think differently, to question things. Question me, I don't care. Question everything around you. And find out, could it be possible that maybe there's even a better idea happening for my life than I have even thought about? Could it be possible that there could be something even greater happening that I'm not even aware of? A frog can only see clear lines of contrast, sudden changes in illumination, outlines in motion, and curves of outlines of dark objects. That's all they can see. A frog can't perceive colors, sunsets, can't see its mother's face, none of that. It only sees what it needs to eat and avoid being seen. So our eyes are selective like that too. While we may see only a little bit, we have actually so much more going on in the world of possibility. So this is where we teach the types of tools so you can open yourself up to a greater way of being. There was a experiment in the Mayan people of Ethiopia, and they were presented for the first time with photographs. So the photographs had people, animals on them. Now they had never seen photographs, so they didn't really understand what was going on. And what did they do with the photograph? They had the photograph, they looked at the photograph, they crumpled it up, they smelled it, they tasted it. The comprehension didn't come through of what it really was because they had no context for it. Now, how many of us are doing that in our life? There's something completely amazing that's coming at us, but we have no context for it, and so we're not absorbing it, but it's still happening. Like, what if your life is even better than you imagined? What if there's some amazing expression, amazing experience that's happening as you right now, and you're not even aware of it? Do you think that's possible? Are you open to it? I went to Peru recently, and when I was in the airport, there was a Peruvian elderly lady in front of me, and we walked up to the escalator, and she stopped. And she looked at the escalator, and she had two younger ladies next to her, and she was like, mm-mm, mm-mm. And they were like, no, it's okay, go. Mm-mm. And then she went aside, and I went up, and I turned around, and I looked at her, and she watched me go up. And then she was like, okay. And then her two, I don't know if it was her daughters or what, but they escorted her up the escalator. And I thought, I think that's the first time she's ever gone up an escalator. How amazing is that? See, the things that I take for granted is miraculous, a miracle for somebody else. But are there things that are miraculous and a miracle for somebody else that, or for me, miraculous and a miracle for me, that other people, they just know. They get it, right? Well, I want to hang out with those people. I bet there's a few of those people in this room. Probably all of you. I want to be in the place where I'm open to the idea that things can get better than I could ever imagine. That there is a real world of people who step into the idea of welcoming and being inclusive and having love for each and every person that enters into their life, despite the challenges. And I want to introduce to you the idea that maybe that's you, because that's the way that I want to be. In the Science of Mind textbook, it says, if we talk about discord, we shall become more discordant. The more the world arms for war, the more certain it is that there will be war. People who spend all their time talking about their unhappiness become more unhappy. So I want to invite you to realize that if you want to start changing your life, stop thinking about and focusing on what you do want. Start recognizing that you can turn your life, you can turn your back on what you don't want, and then focus on what you do want. Turn your back on your selfish desires, your judgment, your petty thinking, and open yourself up to wish for all others what you wanted for yourself. I don't remember the quote, but I think it's like the most, I know somebody here has heard it. It's like the most beautiful place in the world is a place where an old enemy has been, or something like that. You guys know what some of you have heard it. I'm butchering it, but that's okay. There's a woman on my dream team who I've had challenges with. And it's just because we're so strong women, and we see things in a drastically different way. And we've had a period in our past where we were at each other. And something has shifted in both of us. And something has healed. And I was thinking about that last night. We had this amazing women's event yesterday here, where we had 35 women on an all-day event. And I was looking at her and I thought, I don't know what changed, but I think it was me. I think I changed, and probably her too. But it was a place where an old hatred, now I can only see love. And I recognize that things have happened in our past, and maybe they weren't completely talked about over and over and over, but a healing has happened. And sometimes you don't need to go through all of the processing. I know therapy's good, I've done it. And I do it when I need to. But sometimes you don't always have to go through all of the pain in order to get to the healing. It is possible for healing to happen and just have it happen. And that's what happened to me, and I was recognizing that last night. That something has shifted in me where I can completely look at this woman and love her fully for who she is. And recognize, well, that happened. And I have no charge about it at all. And I want that to be in my life everywhere. I want that if there's ever a discordant experience that I have with people, I want there to be an experience of revelation, of illumination, and of seeing that person with new eyes. So I don't know how it happened, and I don't really care. I don't. I'm not going to go overanalyze it. Did I do the right affirmations? Have I been, have I done this? What was the key ingredient? I don't know. I'm open to the fact that the world is conspiring for my greatness. And somewhere inside of me, I healed myself. And because I was able to be healed, I'm able to see with healed eyes. So where in your life are you holding anger? Where are you holding bitter and resentment? Where are you holding on to things from other people? Is there a way that you can let that go and open yourself up to the possibility that maybe something better is happening? Maybe something greater is happening in your life for you to really be available to that. I want you to consider it this week. So to close, I just want to remind you that suffering means that you're not aligned with the laws of the universe. Suffering. Pain is just a reaction, not a bad thing. Hand on stove, oops. Is it so pain, the pain of me losing my ex, right? Because she left and she went for another lady, and I had a lot of pain. But I didn't have to suffer. I knew I had to grieve. But I didn't have to be a victim of this. The reason why this happened was because I could have the best relationship ever, which I do have now. But it didn't have to be suffering. I was going to experience pain, but I didn't have to suffer. So finding the places in your life where you're having pain and recognizing that that's part of your transformation. And letting go of the victimhood as if, oh, this is happening to me because I'm a victim, and stepping into the idea that this is happening because I'm aligning myself into the place that I've always wanted to be. And the second thing to remember is that it's all made up. Everything is an invention of our minds. Are you going to see people with no shoes and say, what a great opportunity? Or are you going to say, oh man, life sucks, because they don't want that. They don't want what I have. And the third thing is to remember to focus on what you really want. Focus on what you really want, because that will create the life that you really want. Are you willing to do that? Yes. All right. Are you willing to do that? Yes. Me too. Me too. We're all on this path together, and I will continue to grow and learn just like you do. So thank you for being here today. I really appreciate you. Let's pray.